Welcome to our guide for installing your new whole house fan. Please read all instructions and warnings before beginning to install this fan. For additional information about the installation of your whole house fan, please reference the instruction manual included with your purchase. Before you begin, you need to decide between joist out and joist in installation. Joist out installation will require you to saw off parts of your ceiling joists so you can place your fan in between the other joists at whatever location you desire. Joist in installation will have you installing your fan on top of the ceiling joists, forgoing the need to remove the joists, but limiting where you can position your fan. In order to install your fan, you will need the following tools. Let's start with how to install your fan using the joist out method. First, you need to find a spot where you want your fan to be. An optimal spot is one in which it can provide even airflow, such as a central hallway or entrance hall. Check for any hidden wiring or utilities in the area. You may have to move them somewhere else, or find another spot to install your fan. This spot should also have 36 inches of clearance above it in the attic. When you find a good spot, measure out the width of the ceiling and drill a hole through the ceiling at the middle. Push a pencil or marker through the hole so you can locate it in the attic. When you find the spot, remove all insulation from the area you're going to cut. Next, you will need to mark out an area where you will be creating an opening for the shutter. The exact size of the hole you will cut is provided in your instruction manual. For joist out installation, measure out the length along the edge of one of the ceiling joists and drill 2 1/4-inch holes at the corners. Go back down to the ceiling side and draw a straight line between the 2 holes. Use the line as a guide to mark the rest of the dimensions. Drill 2 more holes at the other corners. Now that the ceiling is marked, you need to cut out the opening. Using a circular saw or saber saw, cut along the lines you have drawn and carefully remove the drywall from the opening. Be careful not to cut up any joists or wires while you are sawing through the ceiling. Next, you will remove the joists. Nail 2 2x6 lumber pieces about 6 inches from either side of the opening to prevent sheetrock cracking. Once those are in place, mark 2 lines that are 1.5 inches away from either side of the shutter opening on the joists that are over the opening. Cut along these lines using a saber saw. Make sure that the cuts are perpendicular to the opening and at an accurate distance away. Now you need to install a frame around the shutter opening. Use lumber of the same dimensions as your ceiling joists to place the width-wise framing along the edges of the opening. Attach it to the cut joists with number 12 D nails and to the sheetrock with 1.5-inch ring shank drywall nails. Now remove the bridges you placed in the last step and nail in the lengthwise framing to the edge of the opening. Once the frame is in, replace the insulation in the area surrounding the opening. Now that you've built a frame, you need to create a flat facing for your fan to rest on. Using 2x6 boards, create a square in which the inside dimensions are the same as the size of the shutter opening, and nail it down to the frame. You can use the 2 bridges that you removed and the cut joist pieces as the frame to save on lumber. If you would like your fan to operate more quietly, consider building a second box frame. Simply create a square frame the same size as the frame of the fan assembly and nail it down on top of the first frame. This step is completely optional, of course. Just make sure that you will still have a 36-inch clearance between the fan blade and the roof if you do decide to add it. A few pieces have been moved on your fan during shipping to avoid damage, so you will need to correct this before you install it. For belt drive models, you will need to remove the hardware and remount the motor on top of the struts. Position the fan belt on the pulleys and adjust it to have about 1/2 inch of deflection. Remember that over-tightening the belt will increase noise and severely shorten the fan's lifespan. Tighten the fan blade set screw and make sure the hub of the fan assembly is facing up. For direct drive fans, the fan blade is on backwards. You will need to remove and reinstall it with the blades half in and half out of the hub and the hub facing up. We recommend completing the wiring of the motor on direct drive models before the blade is replaced. Once the fan is properly assembled, you can push it up diagonally through the opening, or just take it up through another attic opening. Place the frame on top of the facing and draw alignment marks around the base of the assembly. Secure the fan to the facing using nails or screws. Finally, you need to install the shutter. Draw alignment marks on the ceiling 7/8 of an inch away from the edges to indicate the outer edges, and install the shutter using the white-headed wood screws provided with your fan. Caulk the seams to ensure an airtight seal, and you're done with installing your fan using the joist out method. Now we will go over how to install your fan using the joist in method. Once you find a spot to install your fan and remove the surrounding insulation, align the shutter vane with the closest ceiling joist, so the joist is in the center of the opening. Find the center on the ceiling and draw a line along that point. Use that line to draw the dimensions of the shutter opening, then cut along the lines to create the shutter opening. Use lumber of the same dimensions to create a frame along the edges of the opening, and nail them to the joists and drywall. Replace the insulation around the frame. Then, use 2x6 boards to create a square facing with the inside dimensions being the same size as the shutter opening. After that, you just need to install the fan and shutter in the same way as stated before. Just make sure the louvers are running parallel to the joist. Wiring your fan. Now that your fan has been installed, you need to wire it in the 2 switches provided with the fan. You will need to switch off the circuit breaker to the area before beginning wiring. Install the 2 switches in a double gang UL listed wiring box in a wall close to the fan. Connect the bottom right terminals of both switches with the jumper wire. The incoming black power supply wire connects to the top right terminal of the on-off switch. The incoming white common wire connects to the white common wire from the motor. The black high-speed wire from the motor connects to the top right terminal of the high-low switch. The red low-speed wire from the motor connects to the bottom left terminal of the high-low switch. The grounding wires from the incoming wire and motor connect together and to the top left terminals of both switches. After finishing the wiring, flip the circuit breaker back on and test the switches to make sure that everything works. Operation. This fan cools your home by pulling in cooler air from the outside through open windows and doors and pushing hot air up to the attic. Never operate the fan without open windows or doors, as a lack of proper airflow will cause the fan to stop. Also, never operate this fan while a fire is burning in a fireplace, as it can draw the smoke and soot out of the chimney and into the house. We hope you enjoy your newly installed whole house fan. For further questions, please see our contact information listed here to get in touch with us.